for me today to welcome Mr. Milind Godbole, President of Male India. He's been the president since June 2021. Mr. Godbole is a Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering and has earned his Master's in Business Management. Prior to joining Male, Mr. Godbole has worked in Asia, Middle East, and United States. He possesses over 3 decades of automotive and multi-industry experience. He has previously served as Vice President for Honeywell's Transportation System business in North America and as Managing Director for the same business in India. So, Mr. Godbole, thank you for sparing your time and hearty welcome to you at this edition of the VDMA CEO's Thought Leadership Series.
Yeah, thank you so much for the brief introduction, and really look forward to our discussion today. I really appreciate this initiative by VDMA, and I'm also gaining from it from few of the past interviews that you have conducted here. So really look forward to the discussion. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Godbole. Mr. Godbole, if you look at the last 15 months or so, there has been this period of uncertainty due to pandemic. Now, many leaders are talking about adopting to change. Change seems to be a very big buzzword that has come out also. So in this regard, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Godbole, what are the changes you are looking at Male India to make the organization perhaps a little more agile for the future?
Right. So I think it's a very relevant question, and thanks for putting it up. And clearly, one of the things I would say when we went through this COVID crisis and the associated disruptions, so while there was a lot of things that got shut down, one of the things that really I would say saved the day, the positive piece in that was the available digital platforms, right? And just a good example of that is the way we are conducting the interview today, right? So obviously this is a very big theme, and currently I would say from a Male standpoint, it is going to be a point of really substantial investment. So this is obviously a global and local initiative, but we from India are also taking a lot of additional initiatives around this initiative of a mega digitization program. So this is not only going to unify the different systems or the multi-systems that we use in the company. It is also going to structure our capability of better collaboration between the different functions and different areas. Coming to brass tacks on the ground in India, as we see the Male landscape, and we've been here for more than 5 decades, right? And every business unit, be it engine components, which started off, and then it went into the filters and then the thermal systems. And now we have the new and agile system of mechatronics really coming in and looking at the electrification trend. So all these have had their various time frames and maturity cycles, which are in action. But from a systems perspective, we are trying to I wouldn't say combine, but really have a common ability to pull data between the different business units and really using one Male as one of the frameworks to really improve collaboration in some key functional areas across the businesses, especially on the people side. On the supply chain side, we are making some investments even locally in India to make sure that the best practices are taken, as well as we are able to rapidly bring the digitization programs globally into the India landscape. And this is going to really help us in really the agility and early escalations, probably, which can be solved much in advance before they become larger issues. And also the improvement areas, so the continuous improvement areas, this is going to certainly help us going forward.
Right. Thank you for sharing this with us, Mr. Godbole, and wishing you and the team also a lot of success in this endeavor, the changes that you are looking to implement. Mr. Godbole, now for Male, the automotive sector is of immense importance. If you look at the automotive sector, it's been going through a sort of, you could say, a roller coaster ride, Mr. Godbole. 2019 then was a slow year, then the transition from BS4 to BS6, then the pandemic, the impact of the pandemic, a very strong recovery perhaps after the pandemic, and then the second wave came and again impacted the automotive industry. So going ahead, Mr. Godbole, in your opinion, how will the automotive industry develop in the next, if you look at a horizon of maybe next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, truly. And as I came on board in Male, I'm interacting a lot with our customers. We've had the first introductory calls for sure, and then maybe additional interactions there, as well as I would say a lot of aspects from our internal teams in terms of where we are and where we are likely to go. So looking at what I really see from all this information and data that's coming in, there are actually 2 or 3 key drivers that we can see that is going to work into the automotive space. So one is, I would say, from their consumer standpoint, it is the whole demographics, right? So the country's demographics, clearly we see a broadly emerging upper middle class in the cities, and then the buying behavior, especially on the passenger car side, we can see some of the middle size or even higher size platforms really getting a bigger acceptability in the overall portfolio, and probably also a good place where the OEMs are able to get value for all the efforts that they are currently putting in. So that is one demographic in the cities. And then the other one, which is even, I would say, a larger one, is in the rural spaces. So there is an emergence of a middle class, I would say, there, which is, I would say, more rapid than it has happened in the past. And also from an expectation, consumer expectations, having a two-wheeler or having a four-wheeler has become just kind of something which is becoming more and more, I would say, penetrating more and more into the rural areas. So this is really driving a huge surge in terms of, probably it will drive, I would say it is already driving huge surge in the two-wheeler space, in really the even automotive and four-wheeler space. So you'll see that happening. And also from a heavy industry standpoint, a lot of mechanization is happening in the way the people are working. So the old bullock cart system is probably quickly vanishing. And you have a pretty strong, even through the pandemic, we saw a very strong demand coming in for things like tractors and some of those areas, right? So this is actually working on the demographics. The second one, I think, from an automotive, specifically from the automotive perspective, is the environment and the heightened, I would say, awareness of the overall environment, and then hence the regulatory actions that are really in motion right now. And clearly the BS4 to BS6 jump here from India, the TREM 5 movement in future, and TREM 4, and now the TREM 5 coming up, the new blended fuels, right, coming in, and then the overall trend of electrification. So these are absolutely real, and they are here and now. And Male is investing substantially into all these trends. So we were clearly ahead of the game when it came to BS6, BS4 to BS6, and the kind of products that are required to support that from our portfolio. Similarly, for blended fuels, there is a lot of research activity going on, and even the new fuels within Male to support the OEMs in this key area. And then on the electrification, we actually have formed a completely separate business unit focused on the electrification side of things. We call it mechatronics, in terms of what this BU is going to handle. And really the whole organization is now focused into this new trend and what it really means for automotive component suppliers and how we can be ahead of the curve there. So I think that is the second piece, the environment piece, and the way Male probably is responding to that piece. And I would say from an industry standpoint, again, the buying behavior, so people, and this is on the consumer side, quite a lot on the B2C space, the buying behavior has substantially moved. I would say there's a lot of comfort even in the India landscape to buy things online. And hence the whole delivery chain around this, especially the last mile delivery, like two-wheelers or electrified two-wheelers or LCVs, really these smaller LCVs which do the last mile delivery of things that we order online, right? So these are some of the things that that clearly are going to become an important trend, I would say. And the automotive industry is obviously responding to that. They have various programs by customer, different considering their products that go into the market. But we are closely associated and making sure that we support them in success with this huge trend that is coming on.
Right, right.
Yeah.
In fact, very interesting, Mr. Godbole, even in the luxury car segment, they are seeing that the B2C buying behavior happening on digital platform, which was
Absolutely.
perhaps not unthinkable, perhaps a year or two ago.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
they are seeing a good bit of traction happening also on the digital platform and people going ahead. And you also mentioned about mechatronics. I think that's a very important aspect where mechanical and electrical, electronic engineering coming together. And perhaps we're going to see more and more happening in that field. In fact, going further, Mr. Godbole, you also mentioned about environment and caring for the environment. So let's have a look at the electric e-mobility market in India, Mr. Godbole. Now, government is quite upbeat on the e-mobility. There we have the FAME scheme also supports schemes from the government. Now, however, if we look at on-ground reality till now, Mr. Godbole, actually the number of e-cars sold is maybe under 4,000, even the e-buses, what was forecasted. The whole going has been a little slow till now. How do you foresee the penetration of e-vehicles in India, Mr. Godbole? And how is this going to impact also the auto component industry?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this is an extremely relevant topic, and there is a lot of space, I would say, in every forum where we have an industry forum. I think a substantial space is occupied debating and talking about these topics, both if it's a industry forum or industry government forum. I think there's a lot of discussion going on here. And the government appropriately has come up with a lot of incentives and schemes to really take the electrification path forward. But what I see from an India perspective, one of the things is clearly, I think the focus area is going to be probably in areas where there is a short distance of travel, right? And also where this can actually be used for some of the trend that I spoke in terms of buying behavior
Right.
changes due to the online stuff. So I think the first place which is likely to go for India, I'm talking specifically from an India perspective, is the 2 and 3-wheeler space really getting more and more electrified. And that is as one took a deeper dive into the cause of emissions and the cause of I would say some of the city pollution, this forms quite a substantial portion of the contribution, along with the cars. I would say maybe at the same level or probably even more is the 2-wheeler and 3-wheeler kind of a space which is causing this. So I think this is going to be something that is going to take the lead in terms of the space where electrification we would see really happening more rapidly. And this comes not from our discussion today, but from a few years that even MAHLE has been looking at this space. And as a result of that, about a few years ago, we have also set up a footprint in the country in Coimbatore to really look at this trend and makes India a center of excellence for 2-wheeler and 3-wheeler technology on the electrification side. So right from electric drive motors to all the other associated controllers and I would say devices that are required around the 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler electrification, we have actually invested and put up a footprint in Coimbatore and are ready to actually serve this market with a few customers already working with us in terms of launches. So I think this is a space which is going to take the lead in India. Now coming to the 4-wheelers and probably the other areas of heavy vehicles and off-highway areas and things like that. What I would say, it's the 4-wheelers which probably would go next. But here there is a challenge that the OEMs have also invested substantially in the movement from BS4 to BS6, right? So obviously this has been a big investment and it's very typical from an India perspective, right? So a big investment in India from the OEMs into this change. and really the BS6 engines are still to recover the value and some of these aspects which are there, right? And also there are trends in terms of other fuels that are coming up, which probably don't require that level of huge investment as would be required to move from an IC engine to a complete electrification. So I think this is one of the key drivers in terms of the investment and the OEMs. I would say typical capex budgets and challenges that they may face. But leaving that apart, even looking from a people perspective and where the consumer is going to really get more connected, in the mass market, the pricings are still not there on the electrification side, right? So we have nearly an 80% of mass market out here, even in the four-wheeler space. And that space, the electrification side have still not found the sweet spot in terms of pricing. So even after the government schemes and all that, so there is a way to go. And we can see that the prices are actually coming down every year in this space. And probably it would take the same path as in digitization, as it happened in many other industries, and even otherwise from a peripherals and from your electronic items, you know. So we see a price, I would say, decline year on year in terms of the consumer price. So, but still we are far above the pricing that we typically get for the mass market in India. So probably in areas where it is 15 lakh plus kind of a vehicle, you may see the first penetration really happening here. And then looking at the heavy vehicles, I think it is going to take some time there. Probably hydrogen is an alternate fuel, and people are seriously considering that as one of the areas of fuel cell, and hydrogen is one of the key areas, and MAHLE is also investing and looking at that space very closely. But I would say they are still going down the path of either alternate fuels like CNG and others, and also looking at the new TREM, the new TREM regulations in terms of the off-highway side of things. So that's where I think the heavy vehicles are really going. So they are still in a mode where they will catch up with the latest global standards, which will substantially reduce the particulate matter that they are emitting today. So that itself will be a very big change for India, and especially with the policy of I would say buying back or scrappage policy that government is currently thinking of in this space. These are the ones that are the most polluting. The old heavy vehicles are the ones that are currently the most polluting when they come into a city landscape. And that's, I think, some of the things that the government is also very seriously working on to see the footprint of these heavy vehicles really becoming more energy efficient.
All right. So I think largely, Mr. Godbole, the policies are in the right direction, and I think the ball has started rolling. Now it has to gather pace as we go ahead, perhaps.
Correct. Correct.
Mr. Godbole, you also mentioned about the supply chain earlier. Now, when we talked during the pandemic, the government came out with the Atmanirbhar Bharat policy, where the aim is to make India self-resilient, to develop the manufacturing industry in India, and also perhaps to strengthen the domestic supply chain. Now, Mr. Godbole, what is the level of localization currently at MAHLE in India? And in your opinion, how can these supply chain disruptions, like pandemic showed us there were immense supply chain disruptions that took place. When we go into the future, how can such supply chain disruptions be mitigated to a large extent, Mr. Godbole?
Yeah. So I think this is again a very, very relevant question, which is working on our minds, and probably here a lot of turmoil probably happened with the two waves of and then the sudden spurt in demand that we saw at the beginning of the year before the second wave struck us. So there is also a lot of introspection within the industry on how we really look forward to take this. So I think it's very relevant from that perspective. I think from a MAHLE specific, so maybe I will take your second question first in terms of localization from MAHLE's perspective. We've been here, as I said, for about 5 decades, and every business unit has had its journey in these 5 decades. In terms of the earlier business units like thermal and filtration and the engine components business that we have, they are in quite a substantial phase of, not phase, I would say they've already completed a very substantial phase of localization and are, except for a few key areas, there is a lot of local content. I would say majority of the content is definitely local, and it is a small content that we really import, which is important for us. Or which we do not have equivalent suppliers here. But there is a continuous drive for a lot of localization, and the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme is complementary to the Make in India scheme. So we had already latched on to the earlier one where we also set up our new business unit footprint in India, which I spoke about on the mechatronics side. The supply base that we currently have in India not only supplies to our own plants, but also is a key supply base for our global exports. So it's like a double effect in terms of what we really do with our supply base in this area. So we have been here for several years. We are committed to localization overall as a company. And I think we are doing a lot in every business unit. And obviously in the development stage, in every business unit, it starts with some of the global technologies that we bring in, and then there is a path forward in localization as we bring in new technologies. So it's clearly in our DNA in India, and we keep following that. So again, substantial localization from a MALE standpoint, right? In terms of the other question, which is a more intriguing and I would say a question which will require more thoughtfulness. I would say there is no magic wand, right? So there is no magic wand as far as supply chain disruption prediction and making sure that you are ahead of the game there. It is a lot of hard work and a lot of ability for I would say over communication and the systems that we have to support us. So MALE has been again a leader in terms of multi-product management and the whole multi-product supply base that supports all these multiple products that we actually have, right? So we have, I think, one of the key areas where we have a very strong process rhythm as well as an ability to look deep is the supply base healthiness and risk management side. So as I said, there's no magic wand, and one has to really focus on the key metrics which tell you about the supply base healthiness and about the risk management capability in advance. So it is estimating these risks. It is being able to see them early. It is being able to escalate these early if required, make sure that alternatives are in place, or make sure that there is enough help at the supplier or the tier 3, tier 4 supplier space, and make sure that these really do not hit us as issues, and we manage these escalations well in advance. So I think it's a very strong internal process, and we are supported with really excellent tools in MALE, and they keep refining these tools in terms of our ability to monitor our supply base and then really come up with the risk management and then actions around that. Then you track the actions and make sure that there is enough knowledge about this to take care of it. So I think that is the best. That is the best and I would say most reliable method to manage this, and having very strong systems and investing in those and really complying with those really helps the overall landscape out here. That's what I would say. And I think also my colleagues in the industry, also the few interactions I've had on this topic are pretty much aligned that we need to be agile as well as strongly supported with good tools for this risk management.
Right. Also, Mr. Godbole, you mentioned about MALE being multi-product company, and you also mentioned about the initiative in the mechatronics that you are undertaking now.
Right.
This would also actually lead to with the existing workforce, Mr. Goodbole, to a lot of perhaps de-learning, relearning, skilling of the workforce. So, what are the initiatives? Are you taking initiatives in-house, or what are the initiatives being undertaken by Male in India, especially in the area of skill developments and going ahead with the endeavor in the e-mobility market also?
Correct, correct. So I actually look at it, and even our team here from HR perspective and our learning and development team, we look at it from two categories now, especially after we saw the pandemic and some of the effects on that. So there are actually two drivers here. One, as you rightly mentioned, is the driver around the new technologies, right? And moving away from some of the old ones into newer areas where we need retooling for the people, the relearning, as you mentioned very rightly, right? Working on new technology, new work methods, and now with this huge digitization initiative in Male, it will require, I would say, uh, probably some cultural change also associated with that in terms of getting on board all this digitization and being able to use it to your best benefit, right? So I think that that is one bucket in which we are really looking at the systems that we are deploying here. We have substantially invested in e-learning and the e-learning modules around this, in addition to on-the-job capabilities that we build on our in our factories and in our other workspaces. So there is a lot of focus here coming on e-learning side and also the ease by which this e-learning can be done. So we have also got a module where you can use LinkedIn, for example, for really taking and having an e-learning experience for our employees. So that is one category where we are focusing, and this is again focus based on every subject, you know, so you have to do it in a little different way for every subject. And we are again invested into a very strong e-learning platform here. The second piece, which is again driven, I would say, to some extent from the pandemic that we experienced, is the multi-skilling, right? So that is the other piece because we also had absenteeism to some extent because of the pandemic. People had challenges within the family where someone got infected, and then people had to be at home for a longer period of time, probably active or some of them not active due to the pandemic. So I think this topic has come up as it was always there, but it came up as a key priority in terms of multi-skilling really for us in India. And as a result of that, we are now going to look ahead and really move some of the things like job rotations, right? An ability to learn on a different job, which you can quickly get into should you really have to change your skill from say area A to area B or handle both of these together. So I think on the shop floor, this is a really important piece that we are trying to do. And even in our shared services, so probably I did not mention that earlier, but we have a very big focus from a global perspective. So digitization is one topic I did cover, but the other big topic is on shared services, and India is going to be a very big center for that. So not only for engineering, but also for all the other key functions like HR, sales, purchasing, and other key functions which are really like global functions. India is going to be an important support center going forward for the world, for the Male world, I would say, right? And that is really an area where this multi-skilling again really comes into play, because you can then rotate people between different jobs, have common processes which also make you agile as a company going forward between different business units by using the shared service capability which is being set up out here. So I think pretty much a lot of focus on the people side of things, and we have a good strong footprint in terms of people out here. And you brought up a very valid topic in terms of their skills and capability, how we map it today what are the upgrades that we do and how we track it going forward. So I think all this are really important things for Male definitely, and then for overall the India landscape in terms of especially for the companies who are setting up shared services capabilities here, where you have thousands of employees, 1,000+ employees, or even more than that, working out of one center. So really, it becomes an important piece there also.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for these inputs, Mr. Godbole. It's been, in fact, a pleasure interacting. A lot of insights you have shared with us. And perhaps coming to the last question for today, Mr. Godbole, the events, I think, or the circumstances in the last 15 to 16 months have shown that we live to some extent in this VUCA world, which is full of uncertainty and complex. Now, this makes also the going for CEOs and leaders more complex, more difficult, Mr. Godbole. So we would like you to share 3 tips from yours, leadership tips from your side, Mr. Godbole. And I'm sure these would be of immense value also for our viewers and the CEOs of the other German companies. Actually, 3 tips how you have been able to navigate the boat in these turbulent times, Mr. Godbole.
Yeah. So I think everyone would have their own hot buttons, and I can share only what I think I have been successful with and where it has worked for me, right? So, but obviously this is not like a all-encompassing knowledge or something like that. But I think from my perspective, if you really want to segregate, there are many actually, but if you really want to segregate that what are the top 3 that one has to like keep a watch in this, as you said, VUCA world, the term is quite old, but it's still extremely relevant even in today's times, right? So I think the first thing that we do as a company is really where do we want to go? And that is the whole strategic exercise. And when you have a VUCA world like built on top of that, what you do maybe 6 months ago may not be relevant today. Sometimes even what you do 1 month ago may not be relevant today in a short term. So that's how the things are really moving very, very fast, right? So the strategy refresh drumbeat probably has to be extremely fast as compared to the past, right? So and it could be mostly focused on short term as well as even the long term with all these trends that we spoke about earlier, right from the consumer behavior changes to the environment issues that are getting more focus and which are also important for the company. There are also social aspects where the company probably will need to focus much more going forward. So with all these trends moving at a much rapid pace as compared to the very predictable era, I would say, compared to what we see it now. Obviously, when you ask people in that era, they probably felt the same kind of a change, right? But just looking at it since through my career, I definitely feel that it is much more enhanced at this point of time. So we need to be very rapid in terms of taking these strategy assumptions and really reworking or rehashing things right through the year at a much faster pace as compared to what we would do in the past. And adding to that, maybe an innovation piece, right? So is extremely important. And when you see these trends changing, you can sometimes get overwhelmed by the goals, right? So another aspect around this is really having a can-do attitude and a can-do culture across the company. So can we make the future versus okay, the future is happening and we are getting driven by that. So there has to be a good blend of these 2 areas, in my view, when one is also looking at the strategy as well as how the changes are happening. So I think this is one really big hot button which is changing. And unless you have a clear vision for your team and that changing vision also, so it's not only that it remains the same, but also few changes depending on the environment, you may not expect to get the best out of the team at all times, right? I think the second hot button is really the team and what they are going through in the current times. So their level of uncertainty and now Added to that, the issues related to the COVID, where you have to really work in a very different environment from home. Many of the people are working from home, and then the whole work process and systems are changing, right? So I think one of the emerging areas in all this, as far as the people is concerned, so beyond competence, which obviously is a necessity, the collaboration aspect, and especially from an Indian perspective, the functional collaboration, right, is going to be a really important hot button in these changing times, because that is going to add to speed. So it's Olympic times and we talk about hockey. And if you just think about in our lifetimes, how the hockey playing has changed, from being a very, very individual driven game where someone would like just take the control of the ball and go right up to the other end of the playing field, right? It has moved to a place that is just milliseconds by which people are holding the ball, right? And it is done purely by collaboration that you really are able to win or do better in your game. So I think the same thing is going to reflect back. And this key skill among our Indian leaders of collaboration between functions is going to be a very, very important and vital skill that I would say as companies also we must give more importance to. Beyond obviously the competence in the function is a given, but beyond that I would say the collaboration skill. The second piece is the empathy. So really, and especially in the automotive world, since we have a very long history, it's been I would say even the management style to some extent is I would say hierarchical, and it has a structure which is undergoing a lot of transformation, right? So having this piece of empathy come into the play, right, is going to be very important from a people standpoint in this area. And one could speak, I would say, a lot on this particular topic, but I'll just leave it at this point as a topic, and one could always look at it, what that means, how that means when we look at people's behaviors, when we look at their unforeseen circumstances and how every leader reacts to that. So these are some of the things that can really develop an ability in this area for the key managers. So I think these are the two things from a team perspective. And then the third piece, again, that has kept us running, and I'm just re-emphasizing that it has kept us running through these pandemic times, has been the processes, systems, and the IT infrastructure, so to say, right, which can really help us right through this space, right? And if you really see the valuation of some of the companies that are into this technology space, we can see that also as a reflection in terms of where the business is likely to really refocus itself, right? So the whole digitization piece of operating systems and the continuous improvement, which is driven through a very strong back-end process, which is available, and then a big emphasis in terms of having the right drumbeat in terms of these processes, and an ability to make them also new and flexible. The same thing that we spoke on the strategy topic, right, is also very much applicable to the process topic, right? And as we probably come to the conclusion of this, we can probably take the example of this. My father was in the Indian Army, and we would be going to different places through that, right? So, and one of the things that used to have an armored division, and they had these guns, So they did a study there in terms of their processes, and they really found out that every time they took out a certain size of a gun, they found that 5 people would be allotted to that. And then the person who was studying this really tried to look and figure out why, because the actual requirement was only for 4 and probably 3, but they would still have a 5th person there. And then when they went back and researched it a little bit, what they found out is that in the earlier days, you needed a person to actually light the fuse, to someone to light the fuse. And with the new technology, there was no requirement of that. You would just press the button and the gun goes, But the person to light the fuse would still go along with the team. So it's a bit of a humorous situation. But you can find these kind of things in real life when you really go down and see the processes which are really relevant, which make you fast. and those which probably need to undergo a change. So it's a very simple example, but probably just something I thought I will share in conclusion.
So very interesting, Mr. Goodbole, especially I think your analogy with the hockey team and also this last example of the armed forces. I think this was a very good example, very relevant example. So, Mr. Goodbole, it's been a pleasure interacting with you, and thanks for sharing your insights on the Indian economy, automotive industry, e-mobility, skilling, and as well as I think sharing the plans of MALE in India. So on behalf of the German Engineering Federation, VDMA, wishing you and the team, Mr. Goodbole, all the very best for the future, and stay connected, and wishing you a lot of success also, Mr. Goodbole.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the VDMA team. Thanks to you. And it was a pleasure really interacting. So
thank you, Mr. Goodbole. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Take care.
Okay.
Right. Take care. Bye.